All right. Well, good morning, and thank you for being here today. On June 1st, I called for an investigation into the office of Speaker Donovan regarding the indictments and the alleged scheme of corruption in his campaign. Sadly, my call for a legislative investigation on June 1st fell on deaf ears, as many in the Speaker's own party rallied around to defend him. We now have new facts that have been brought out in the superseding indictment. And those facts are alarming, they are shocking, and they show that this alleged scheme of corruption went to the highest levels in the Speaker's office, and thus the highest levels of our state government. We cannot ignore these facts anymore. And I'm just talking about facts. We know from that indictment that as late as May 24th, someone who's employed by the state in the Speaker's office was engaging in electronic conversations with Mr. Nassi about the status of legislation that is at the very heart of the federal government's case against the 8 individuals who've already been arrested. In the last 5 years, 3 members of the state Senate have resigned due to misconduct. 1 went to jail for selling his office. There is a culture of corruption in Connecticut, and that culture must be stopped. And it cannot be stopped if this legislature is going to continue to turn a blind eye to what has gone wrong. The very integrity of our system and our institution is involved. The public trust is involved, and it is our job to restore it. We know, based on the investigation conducted by the Speaker's own campaign, to the extent that it was an investigation, that there is a list out there in Mr. Nassi's handwriting that references 7 pieces of legislation. We know that the federal government has alleged that, at least with respect to 1 piece of legislation, there was a scheme of corruption. We need to get to the bottom of when this started, who was involved, find out what those other 6 bills were, and if there were more involved. We need to find out who the legislative employee or employees are who were involved, what they knew, and when they knew it. They are employees of the state. They are public servants. They work for the people of the state of Connecticut. And if they have been involved in a scheme of corruption, that needs to be rooted out as well. This is not the first time, sadly, as I said, that in Connecticut we've dealt with scandal. This legislature has taken upon itself in at least 2 instances to conduct independent committees of inquiry, investigations regarding previous scandals. And with at least 1, the standard, and the standard set by the Democrats, was not whether someone violated the law or committed a misdemeanor or felony, but whether or not the public's trust was violated. I would argue that no one in good conscience can read that indictment and say that the public's trust and the integrity of this institution have not been violated. It has. The question is to what extent and by whom. And that's why I am calling upon the leaders of this legislature to join me in putting together a committee of inquiry. I'm recommending that we do a bipartisan, bicameral committee with 8 members. 2 members from each caucus, 4 Democrats, 4 Republicans. Further, I think it's important that that committee be empowered to hire an independent counsel and vest that independent counsel with subpoena power. Investigations with no authority and no subpoena power aren't real investigations. We need to get answers, and vesting an independent counsel with subpoena power will help us get those answers. It's also important because there is an ongoing federal investigation, and we learned during the impeachment inquiry of Governor Rowland, which also occurred while a federal investigation was ongoing, that the nonpartisan staff of this legislature, who do a fantastic job, there isn't anyone who has that experience or expertise to do it, which is why we need an independent counsel to assist them in their work. This is not something I stand here and relish to do. But the fact of the matter is that 99.9% of anyone who's ever served in this legislature is a good, honest, hardworking person trying to do the best they can to make their constituents' lives and the lives of the people of the state of Connecticut better. But sadly, there are the rare few who make all of us look bad. And by making all of us look bad, they destroy public trust in their government. And the only way we can restore that public trust is by standing up and saying we are willing to look at one of our own, regardless of whether they're a member of our own party or our friend or our colleague. And we will investigate them honestly, openly, fairly, thoroughly, and wherever the investigation leads, it leads, and we will accept the answers and mete out whatever we think is necessary. With that, I'll be happy to take any questions.